So,
You're more inward.
yes.
No,
The live stream is like the worst of the, I know, it's like on the edge, you know, but,
Well, what do you listen
That's a great.
Okay, no, understand.
I was just gonna say that because my house on Olive, I'll be sure that in one bath, 1,200 square feet. I rent it out for $2,000.
And blind. All right, hey guys, thank you guys for joining us today for the first agent meeting here in July. I hope everybody had a very happy 4th of July Independence Day celebration. I was going to hit some quick topics this morning, and then we've got Marianne with a Chosa. Aaron, you can come in. Let me see if I can get Aaron in.
Come in, Aaron.
Where is Aaron? How do I get there? There it is. That one. Ashley, contributors. I don't know where she went. Oh,
Any other day?
well, it said that everybody wanted to come in. Well, okay. So if you ever try to sign into this meeting remotely and it doesn't let you in immediately, it's because you're not signed into your 6th Gmail account. So just switch over to that account and then you'll be able to get in automatically here because you're invited. Okay. Today is the 10th of July and our core value today. We relentlessly pursue simplicity and clarity by managing expectations well. Being clear is kind. We believe we serve our clients well when we remove confusion and keep the process simple and stress-free. Stress, tension, and conflict is often avoided by simply managing expectations. Our clients should never be caught wondering what's going to happen next. We are clear and honest with our team and clients and are not afraid to be open about bad news or have hard conversations. Additionally, we encourage our team to internally pursue simplicity and clarity so that they focus on the right priorities and goals. The reason I selected this one is because we're all going through this chaos of NAR settlement and trying to figure out what we are going to say and how we're going to say it and explain all these forms to the people. We're going to go through some of that today. I don't have answers. I know everybody is out there saying, ask your broker. Nobody's given us any kind of guidance whatsoever. They're just putting it all back on us because, oh, it's wonderful actually being in this position at this point. So, but we're all going through it together. And I think we're going to have some good conversations after we do our stuff this morning about how we say what we say, how we're explaining these forms to our people. So we're going to talk about that, and that'll be our main focus for today. So a couple of announcements, and then Marianne's going to join us from Achosa. Okay, so the question issue process, just remember Slack is always your first and best stop because she has expertise and she has expertise and she has expertise that I don't have. So it's always good to go onto Slack, hit the guides channel, ask your question. I promise somebody will chime in. If I need to chime in, I promise I will. Okay. I'm always there. Part-time agents can get their 6th required forms from the back site. There is in the quick links and down in productivity. There is a thing that says part-time agent. So if you're a part-time agent and need access to docs, they're there. The new listing and buyer presentations that are fully customizable are in Canva. There is a link to those in the quick links on the Slack channel and on the quick links on the back site. Announcement, July the 29th, our MLS will be removing the compensation tab blank on MLS. There is talk. I've seen both sides. They may be putting something in there that says seller concession, yes or no. That's what I'm being told is possible. We'll see how that goes.
So $418 million.
Okay, code of ethics. Let me present something real quick so that you guys can see this, how you go check it. Thank you, Danielle, for telling me that I screwed up again. I appreciate that. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Let me share this one. Okay, so when you sign into NAR, .realtor.com, I believe it is actually the link. Let me see what the link is real quick. NAR.realtor, and then you'll go to my account. When you get in here, you will see this is your stuff. You got a membership card with your member ID. If you don't have that written down someplace, write it down in your contacts on your own contact card. You will need that number occasionally. Right here should be Code of Ethics, and it'll say completed if yours is completed. It's a 3-year cycle for the Code of Ethics. So every 3 years, everybody has to take it. Everybody has to take Code of Ethics. So the next cycle begins January of 25, and then we'll have till 28 to do it again. So right now, please go check, because they will kick you out of NAR, but you suspend you if your stuff isn't done. Okay. The next thing that I want to show you, and I'll put both these links in here. If you're not sure, I'm going to put this link. Look, let me present this one. Share this tab. Looks like this, and this is a Code of Ethics questionnaire that walks you through if you got it or not, and it gives you the option of doing so. I'm thinking about doing something in the fall, maybe doing a Code of Ethics here at the office. So don't get real riled up about it, but if you want to go ahead and take it online, it's simple, but we may do something here in the office in September.
I'd rather that. Let's just do that.
Okay, well, that's okay. I can deal with that.
I did mine a part of my continuing ed package.
It's possible that you did that.
So does that record back to NAR?
It should. So go check and see if it's there.
Okay.
The semi-annual, what used to be called quarterly this year, because of everything that was going on with 100 Days to Greatness, I didn't do quarterlies. So at the end of the first quarter, you guys didn't have to talk to me. Well, now we're at semi-annual. We're half a year. This is a catch-up session, guys. There's no big questionnaire. I'm just checking in on you, seeing how things are going. I encourage you, invite you to make a meeting with me. It'll be 15 minutes. It'll be Google Meet. We'll just catch up, see if there's anything that I need to know. If you don't feel like you need one, there's no requirement. I'm not going to twist your arm, but the bookings are there. They're in the Sunday night email for you to go and book one of those. There is another Zoom coming with the Baker firm on the 19th. That link was in the Sunday night email as well. So that goes over the forms and how to use them. Clarissa will be joining to mentor. Did you get your package?
I did.
Good. Okay. So she's got her mentor package. So she'll be mentoring with me on 100 Days to Greatness this fall. Again, we're not going to sign up for 100 Days to Greatness until late August, because they're putting out a discount, probably $100 off in mid-August. Buffini will. So as soon as they put that out, they will alert me. I'll let everybody know if you want to take 100 Days to Greatness. Even if you've been in the business 5-7 years, it's a fantastic class of getting back to the basics. And if you don't know somebody that's taken it, ask around the office, because we've got lots of people that have taken the 100 Days to Greatness. It's a great class. ABR is still free. If you need the rechat videos for the marketing or the transaction, they're not on the YouTube channel. Text me and I'll send you the link for it. Continue prayers for Phil. Hope you all saw he got a heart. Recovering, and he is moving on. Call Jimmy with Pulling Outdoor Leads. Don't forget the 6th Ave branded note cards are on the backside as well. Next week, we'll have Sean Russell with First United Bank for a visit. Probably, you know how Sean is, 20 to 25 minutes of market update of what's going on in Sean world. But that was his brother that came 2 weeks ago. What? Did I say something funny? Daniel?
Sean's World.
Sean world.
Funny. I thought it was.
He's
It-
long-winded.
It is.
Very good.
Okay, so at this point, I'd like to introduce Mary Ann with Achosa Home Warranty, and I sent everybody an email yesterday that had the digital links for what she's about to go through. But I hope you all looked at that. But Mary Ann, floor is yours. If you'll come in here so people online can see you, the camera's up here. So if you'll come up here, that'd be fantastic, and they can see you.
Okay.
Hi, how are you? Oh my God, how's the baby?
So good.
How's the baby?
I understand a couple of others have babies around here or something.
Yeah, yeah, I'm waiting on my first grandchild. That's right.
Sorry. Okay, where am I standing?
You can stand right there in the center, and that way people online can see you. That's perfect right there.
Oh gosh, yay. Hi.
All right. I am so excited to be here, and thank you so much. Seeing so many familiar faces and just getting to meet so many new people. So, Achosa Home Warranty needs the power to choose. Before I go into a lot of that, I just want to get some kind of feedback on the market. It's been a weird market. I feel for you guys. We went so many years, God, Clarissa knows, where home warranty wasn't even included in the transaction, right? And as long as I've been in the industry, since 1997, if anyone was born after that, just keep it to yourself. So,
Gracie's not here.
my children were raised in home warranty basically, but, so yeah, the home warranty just went away. We had like 85% usage being written into the contract, went down as low as 25%, just talking to different brokers. So we are starting to see a little bit of it come back, but I'd like any feedback on what you guys are hearing or seeing in regards to getting it, the paragraph 7H. Does everybody know about 7H?
Yeah, it's definitely coming back. Yeah.
Good, good. So I'm glad to hear that. So I know every property is different. I'm still seeing a lot of stuff on social media with multiple offers, that kind of thing. As soon as I see that, I go, oh, God, they didn't get a home warranty. But I have an answer for that. So, like I said, as long as I've been in the industry, I come from over 20 years of being what we call that traditional home warranty model of having to use a network contractor and just the whole process. And so, the company I was with before, two of our co-founders came from that company that just said there's got to be a better way. Because every time something went awry, didn't necessarily have to do with the contractor, but it came down to let the homeowner get their own contractor. They're begging to use their own contractor. So they would eventually, but then they would only reimburse them at wholesale because that's how they work. Traditional home warranty companies get their equipment at wholesale. They pay their contractors a lesser rate. So we just said that's not going to work. So that's why we let the homeowner use their own local contractor. Very simple claims process. When something fails, homeowner calls us. We do only take claims over the phone, and we do that on purpose. So we have that verbal communication to determine that it is actually a home warranty item. You know, we have people to call about windows. I wish I could think of some of the things I get asked. Do you cover this? And it's like, no, sorry. So again, just making sure it is a home warranty item. Give them authorization to get their own contractor. You should get that question. What if they don't know who to call? Right? We'll send them out 3 contractors. They're all retail and still in their control who they want to use. Once the contractor's at the home, they call us back with the diagnosis. When it's approved, you look at the back of the brochure, our service fee is $100. They pay the first $100 directly to the contractor, and then we pay the remaining amount directly to the contractor. That's how we prefer that it work. Sometimes we'll get a contractor that says they won't take a third-party payment. In that case, if the homeowner, we prefer they not have to front the money, but if they go ahead and pay it, they've already gotten approval, send us a receipt, and we send out a check within a couple of days. So, and I probably shouldn't promote this too much. So I just got this call this morning. Somebody called saying, I forgot to have a home warranty. And I had this done. Can I get it covered? I gave the number to the customer service. So do you think any home warranty company would cover something done without prior approval?
No.
So I chose, again, our goal, let me really focus on that, is to help you guys protect your brand, help you get more client referrals. So as long as we can get a diagnosis from the contractor as to what was the cause of the failure, that it falls under normal wear and tear, and, you know, can it be repaired, need to be replaced, get those questions answered, we will go ahead and do it as a reimbursement. But again, we prefer if they follow the process, that's where we get a really good customer service reviews. So y'all have any questions about that on the process?
I think that's a great feature of a Chosa home warranty is that being able to select your own contractor. I only know of one other company that does that, and it's not called American Schwonhield.
I thought you were about to name the other company. I was like, oh, I'll tell them. So, you know, let me ask you this. If you call a contractor and ask them, will you work with the home warranty company? What do you think they're going to say?
No.
And I said, they may use foul language.
Questions?
It's very important. Yes, ma'am.
And y'all still like when you get closing, you still wait on the home warranty, you know this over Christmas, remember? And I'm like, too bad. Y'all have your checks mailed to you guys, or can you like from closing? Because like literally, I had a transaction close, and 2 days later, the like septic system was backing up. But then the home warranty was like really hard. So
So
like,
Reverend
get it,
Joseph, was it?
no,
Okay.
but to get in place because they're like, well, we haven't received payment. Well, I'm like, well, I got a problem that should be covered.
Yeah.
But now that we don't have homework, like, cause the check was mailed, like
Was there
it
not a
caused a
waiting
lot
period?
of, do what?
Was there a waiting period?
Yeah, no, so
Well,
to answer your
but
question.
they, like, it had closed and when we made the claim of home warranty, they hadn't received payment.
Yeah,
So it
But
was
even
like-
if they did, would they cut like from it? Because usually there's like a.
Yeah,
There's not a
like
waiting
first 30
period.
days.
There
or
shouldn't be a
something.
waiting period. So,
No, there
what
wasn't.
our
I mean, there
contract
wasn't. It was
states-
just lack of payment.
well,
recorded.
most home warranty companies, I don't know who it was, but they'll
Well, I
go
can tell
ahead,
you later.
they'll go ahead and process the claim. You
Right,
know, ours says they have 14 days. We have 14 days to get the check.
okay.
Do we stick by that? No. Do I get emails where we covered a claim and 45, 60 days later, we still haven't gotten a check.
Yeah.
And they're like, can you reach out and find out if
Yeah.
you're gonna pay for this?
So like in that particular situation,
It should just be dispatched. It should not have been an issue.
so if the title company said, we mailed you the check, would
Yeah.
that claim have
I
been
just had
covered?
to-
Okay.
I mean, I basically just had to, I mean, they did process it. It just took some, arm turning to be like, hey.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, it was literally over the holidays and it was like kind of,
Yeah.
unfortunate, but,
Well, and we just started something new too, where at 45 days after closing, if we haven't received payment, we are sending out an email to
okay.
the agent, the title company and the buyers, letting them all know, hey, just an FYI, because, it's unfortunate if they go to place a claim and say, we never received payment. We're trying to avoid negative situations
Right.
like that.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, it should not have been an issue. Sorry about that. So, the other thing too, I like to talk about our net promoter score. Who knows what a net promote NPS? You ever get a survey? It says on a scale of 0 to 10. When you're yeah. That survey that everybody ignores and deletes. I pay a lot of attention to it now because that's what major companies use to determine their customer service rating. Anything over 60 is considered good. Who loves Chick-fil-A?
Mm.
I love Chick-fil-A. I get a lot of points bringing Chick-fil-A to realtors. Sorry, I brought bagels. I didn't get any points for those bagels. But their score is anywhere from 54 to 62, surprisingly. They're all independently owned, and I can tell you, different service from different, locations. So Starbucks, Costco, Apple, they're in the low 70s. And Chosen is right there at the same, in the low 70s. So we send out a survey on every single claim when the claims are completed. As long as I've been in this industry, it blows my mind. People actually take the time, not just do 4 or 5 star, whatever. They actually give us feedback. So any of you that see me on social media, my testimonial Tuesdays, those come directly from the surveys. I don't make it up. I promise. I may have to, correct some grammar or something occasionally. So,
So do you cover like all the counties in North Texas?
every county, every zip code, since we let them use their own contractor.
Okay.
Yep. We're open in 28 states. Just got word. I think we're going to open in 2 more coming soon. So we are growing. So even with the challenging market, we just have an awesome team. And listen, as I call all the time, give me your buyer's phone number. Let me talk to your buyers. So in that situation, if it is where it didn't get negotiated in the contract, I'm offer a $50 discount, whatever, to help keep them protected. So good thing to remember, 2.7 is the average number of failures that occur in the first year. So I am the perfect example of that. My boyfriend and I bought a house in January. The first 90 days, I had 3 things come up. Fortunately, they're all minor. One was a plumbing claim, though. Think I know a few plumbers. I did, but I said, I'm going to check it out. I told them, I don't know who to call. So I got the list. 2 of them were like too far away. One that was closest had 5 stars. His name is Big Beard Plumbing. I'm like, oh, dear God. You never know, but had 5 stars. And sure enough, 2 men, well over 6 foot with long beards, showed up at my front door. And he asked me, how did you find out? How'd you find it? So I started telling him about a Chosen. He's like, this is so familiar. Sure enough, a real estate agent has a Chosen on her own home, uses him as her preferred plumber, had a claim, he got on our list as a preferred plumber. So as long as they get good reviews, if they call us saying, how do we get on your list? That's the most important thing. So, do you have any questions?
Does it have to be on a primary home? But you have to live in the house to get.
We
the
will
authority.
cover tenant occupied, is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Yes, we will cover tenant occupied. So on here, on the back of the brochure, where it has the add-on options, that 2.7 average claims I told you, that's on owner occupied. That number bumps up to about 3 claims. So there is a $180 non-owner occupied fee on top of that. So, but some of our biggest clients are property management companies. Because I tell you in the past, if somebody called and wanted to put it on a tenant occupied property, I'd be like, that's just, a disaster waiting to happen because tenants want things done like this. And they usually have their own people. The owners usually have their own people. So it's a really good option. We keep the plans real simple. The core at $475, Prime is $575. Prime Plus is the most popular at $775. Cover the same items. The only difference is the amount of coverage between the heating, the AC, and the water heater. This is where we're very transparent. You sent out the link yesterday. So in that brochure, it's got this, the brochure and all this, and then it's got an application page that I encourage you to use if you don't already have something else, that if they decline the home warranty, you can use that. It's fillable. Have them check that decline, sign, and date it. And a lot of times when you put that back in front of them, it makes them think, maybe I should get that home warranty. So that, and then the contract terms, very simple. Covered, not covered, and exactly how much coverage for each trade under each plan. Okay. So the water heater, best example. What I dealt with traditional home warranty companies. When that's when they make their money. Is that when there is a failure and there's a replacement, anybody ever had that where they come back with like $1,000 in non-cover charges for a water heater? Yeah. So that's where the network contractors make their money. And that's where we said, we're not going to do it like that. So we pay retail up to specific amounts under the Prime Plus is $1,000. If there's anything out of pocket, homeowner knows it right then, not 3, 4, or 5 days later, and can get the job done ASAP. Any questions about that?
Thank you, Mary Ann. Appreciate you coming today. Thank you for breakfast, everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
If we're not, and if you have any pending contracts, I appreciate you thinking of me. And if we're not connected on social media, please look me up. Mary Ann King, Home Warranty Queen, providing multi service for over 20 years.
Thank you, Mary Ann.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have one for you.
Oh, good. No, what did you say?
I have a
No, I'm deaf on my left ear, so I can't tell where you're coming from.
On like, if I were to get one of these on my tenant occupied home, does payment need to be upfront or do y'all have like a monthly?
So on the real estate product, it does have to be paid up front.
Okay.
If you want to do the monthly product, I mean, there is monthly payments. It's a consumer plan. You just go to our website.
Okay,
If you've not had a home warranty in place, it's not one of the real estate transactions, there is a 30-day waiting period.
okay, that's fine. Yeah, and I did have one. I just.
If you have an existing home warranty coverage and you transfer it to us, they'll waive that 30-day waiting period.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Very cool.
All your pictures.
Again, Mary Ann, thank you so much for coming today and thank you for giving all this stuff. It's really great information. Okay, guys, I want to go ahead and hit some highlights from, since we just finished the first 6 months of the year and we're halfway through, I'm going to show you guys some numbers. Not from the MLS, this is from 6th Ave, okay? So let me present this and let me show you where we are. Okay, so this is the spreadsheet that we work off of called the Master Brokerage Transactions. This is where Victoria, Jimmy, and I all keep track of everything that's going on with the brokerage. I know it's super confusing. There's like 9 other sheets behind this one that make all this work. But what I want you to look at is this is 2023 right here. So last year we had 42 agents. We did $71 million in volume, and that was 8.52% growth over 2022. Gross commissions was at 1.97 million, and that growth was up almost 15%. We did 175 transactions last year as a brokerage. This year, we are at 51 agents. Our goal is 77 million. Right now, we're at 52 million for the year, halfway through, which is only down 26% from last year. So that tells you we're about 25% of where we were this time last year. We've done 1.48 million, which 1.9 to 1.4 is only 25% down. We're at 128 transactions, which is down 25%. And the gross profit for the brokerage is at 162, and that's only down 12% for the year. I just wanted to show you guys, we're having a really good year. We're having a very good year for Sixth Ave, and I wanted to encourage you guys. I wanted to show you this just so you guys could see where the goals are and how we're looking as far as the year goes. We're doing very well, and I want to encourage everybody to keep up the good work. So, going to stop sharing. Jana Seal has raised a hand. I will go ahead, Jana. Come on.
Well, these are the numbers that I was talking about whenever I was doing my listing presentation. If you don't have your numbers yet, rely on the brokerage numbers to establish yourself as, you know, having experience before your clients. So you guys use these because they're great.
Yeah, if anybody wants those numbers, just holler at me and I'll be glad. I can't share the spreadsheet with you. That Jimmy would frown on that, but I can share the numbers with you and tell you exactly where we are if you need those numbers for anything. So, okay, let's go on. And I have a very, very quick video that we are going to watch, Tom Ferry. And it's not super informative, but I want to show you how ambiguous things are right now, even from the prognosticators and the professionals. So let me open this up and let me share this tab. Hang on a second. Go here. All right.
Let's talk about sitting down and having that conversation with the seller. You walk in and the seller says, well, now I hear I don't have to pay the buyer side commission. What should that conversation look like?
So, Jimmy, I keep hearing that quite often. I'm curious. Tell me what your perspective is. Help me understand.
Yeah. Well,
that's where you want to start.
Yeah. And you just, I just keep hearing on the news,
Yeah.
you know, that everywhere I turn, it's just saying that this is the days of commissions are changing, and now I don't have to pay that side. So I'm just curious what that looks like.
Yeah. So when you go deeper into those articles, there's a lot to unpack there. So the first thing I would ask you is this: what's most important to you? Is it the highest possible price for your home? Is it the highest possible net, or is it the fee that we charge? Which one? Because
highest net, obviously.
Highest net. So if there was a way, like let's just say, for example, and I'm not saying this is the case, if there was a way for me to get you the highest possible price and not incentivizing agents, you'd be interested in that.
Absolutely.
But in my 22 years of being in the business, I'm yet to see that play out. It's more likely in a market like this, with a magnificent home like yours, where the market is hot and we're going to have a lot of opportunity. A lot of people are going to be interested in this property. If we don't use the most important tool in all of business, you know what that is? Incentives. Yeah. Incentives. You mentioned to me earlier you're a school teacher, and if you're a school teacher, and I bet you're a great school teacher, aren't you?
Yeah.
When you're a great school teacher, you understand that after a certain period of time, you now have a very special incentive. One, after 10 years, right? You're now tenured, but the other one is you have that pension. So if that tenure and that pension was suddenly removed, do you think we'd have as many great school teachers? What do you think? No. So I think the point for the listener is to think about, if you actually go onto ChatGPT and you say, tell me about the superpowers of Warren Buffett, of Charlie Munger, what did they focus on more than anything else when they were building or, trying to engineer growth of a business? Or you go back to John D. Rockefeller, you go back to Cornelius Vanderbilt, they all said the same thing: get the incentives right. When you get the incentives right, all the magic happens. And what concerns me about what's happening here, and again, even role playing this morning with ChatGPT, asking, how much do you know about, and have you looked at, and if a seller says to you this, what are they really trying to accomplish? And, we look at this and say, they're trying to create transparency by removing it. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's so many flaws in this, and that's a whole separate conversation. But my point to you is always use examples that the average person can relate to. And everybody can relate to compensation, getting paid, and incentives. So you can then manipulate that how you want based upon the person you're sitting in front of.
Yeah, no, I think this is so good because, it's the thing. I think I've heard you say this before. I know that I've said it my entire career. It seems like stats will tell, the stories are going to sell. So you've got to have your story where they can understand and put themselves in those shoes.
Yeah.
All right. So now let's talk about that.
Can I give just a pro tip also? If you haven't taken the time to review your MLS to figure out what percentage of the properties today that are currently listed for sale with a co-op commission north of say the average, I could say 2, right? So you're looking at MLS stats. North of 2, it's fascinating because I look at, Colorado Springs, I look at Phoenix, Arizona, I look at Atlanta, Georgia, some of the places where Zillow goes to kind of do their test kitchen, right? So I'm always trying to watch there to see if there's a trend happening or something with the zeitgeist that's making a difference. And in all 3 of those marketplaces, guess what we're seeing? It is like less than 1%.
Right.
Offering 0. Less than 1%. Now we know on August 17th, it'll be 100%.
Right.
But I think it's important to do a historical look back to know the numbers in your marketplace. What is the actual average? We just did this with F&F for the entire country. I know what the number is on the buy side in California, in New York, and across the country. You have to know the stats and then be able to negotiate from there.
I think this is great. Where would they get those stats? I mean, you've given that tip before a little bit with either a local title company or.
I would go right to your local title company, and just say, hey, this is what I'm looking for.
Right.
Right. Help me understand. And,
Yeah.
and again, others will say you can pull from the MLS, right? And you can add that data into the MLS and say, now help me understand, unpack this for me, right? That's a little more advanced. Remember, every time you add something into ChatGPT, you do give it to the rest of the world. So just, be mindful of that because it's data.
Right. Okay, it's good. And then sitting in there, utilizing that. Let's
Yeah.
talk about the scripting
Yeah.
with that. As you're saying that to someone,
Yeah.
how would that sound?
Well, so Jimmy, I took the time to look at all the data. So again, we're only talking about up to August 17th because then it doesn't exist anymore. I mean, you could probably say this for another 30 days afterwards and then it becomes a moot point. But today I would say, hey, so Jimmy, I pulled out from the MLS all the properties that sold in the last 30 days and all the properties that are currently listed for sale. And see, so what we can see here is we're at about 95% of all the properties are offering an incentive for the more than 20,000 agents in our marketplace to bring their buyer to your property. Right. So I guess one of the questions we have to ask ourselves is if our aim is, as you mentioned earlier, to get the highest possible net proceeds for your home, in my study of business, there's never been a business that had sustainable growth and achieved the kind of record success they wanted trying to cut expenses on the way. What they did is they said, let's give all the incentives to make sure that we can achieve the numbers we want to achieve. So 95%, do we want to disincentivize 95% and only focus on the 5? Or should we say, hey, let's get 100% of the buyers in the marketplace looking at your property to ultimately allow me then to negotiate the best possible net proceeds, terms, and price for you?
Oh, it's good stuff.
It's just that. I mean, and I know like a 1,000 agents would watch this and say, yep, that's exactly right. And here, I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for the one that's like, okay, hold on, let me rewind that and write that down because I'm literally 75,000 hours into coaching.
Right.
And I've role played with every one of my clients. I don't want to say on every call for the last 29 years, but I'd say every other.
Well, it's kind of what you do. I mean, we were doing it on the right end here.
Right.
I know. So, yeah.
Andy C., Tim Smith, Maxine Gellens, Jill Biggs, Lisa Chinati, Tom, like all these legends in the space. You know, they all, hey, well, how would you say this? How would you say this?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. All right, let's get one more question because
Sure.
let's say that seller is sitting there and they say, but you've told me that we're probably going to get multiple offers. I mean, with my house being as beautiful as it is.
Yes.
Why should we offer it if we're going to get multiple offers?
So again, so tell me what you're trying to do. Yes, we can get multiple offers. Do you want to get a lot of offers and drive the price really high? 2 is technically multiple. What are we trying to accomplish?
Yeah. All right. Great. Just circle back to those same basics.
Yeah.
Cover
What
those
are you trying
things.
to accomplish? And again, I think the bigger one is going to be dual agency that, especially like you look at many of the marketplaces where the market's really frothy, where it's really hot, the seller's going to say something like, well, Jimmy, like, look, I'm okay if you represent it. Like, I just don't want to, I don't think I need to pay a buy side fee. And I think that's where you have to get into what are the rules with your brokerage? What are the rules if anything's changed in your state, always being mindful of state and then your company's regulations. But at the end of the day, I love the line where you say, hey, Jimmy, I could represent the buyer, but let me tell you, after 15 months in the business or 18 years in the business or 300 years in the business, I have found that is always in the best interest of the person that's hiring me today, and that is you, to make sure that I'm not negotiating against you with another buyer. And, I maybe there's the rare occasion in a scenario where a couple's getting divorced and they can hire one attorney, but I've not seen one in my 53 years.
Yeah.
In almost every case, you need somebody else representing you to make sure that person's negotiating on your behalf. So if I was to procure a buyer, right, that was unrepresented and hadn't signed an agreement with someone else, let me explain what I do. I actually give the buyer to another agent in my office and I say, negotiate against me, good luck. Here we go. Because my job is to serve you. And if I'm now serving 2 masters, You know who I'm ultimately serving? Myself. And I'm not in that game. I'm not here to list and sell your home tonight and just have a great transaction. That is table stakes for me. What I want is the 5-star review. What I want is when you tell people the story of how I was able to slay the dragons and stop all the problems and make this as easy and stress-free as possible, right? And I ultimately want 5, 6, 7 referrals because you're like, you got to use my guy, right? How can I do that representing a buyer at the same time on your property?
Yeah, this is such good stuff. Listen, if you're out there and you have watched this, the key thing is to put this into practice, because ultimately the difference in what's going to happen to your business over the next 12 months is going to be how you execute on these things. Best in the business, my friend. Thank you. This has been tremendous. And I know there's going to be value. Listen, reach out, let Tom know how much you appreciate it. Talk to you guys soon.
Okay. So everything shut down in the middle of that. Hope you guys got to see all of that. What do you think about Tom Ferry's take? Couple nods.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, isn't it like 90% of all buyers are represented anyways?
Right.
So.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I think dropping that statistic is, from the get-go, is pretty heavy when it's like, we're really limiting yourself.
Well, what do you guys think that the sellers are saying? Are they saying, I only want to pay 6% if you yourself bring me the buyer? Do you think that's what they're saying? Because the ones that are not wanting to pay the buyer's agent.
that's what we don't, I mean, that's,
People running into that yet?
I don't think that
My
I've.
last listing,
I haven't run into it.
yeah, I have a listing that,
Janet, you can just chime in when you want to. You're fine. Hang on, Danielle's talking right now.
I loved what he said about, it's not really about removing buyer agency commission, about transparency. And I think you can turn that conversation around real quick and say, there's a lot of misconceptions out there, how knowledge is. It just flies from people that are making things up, that are taking on their own perceptions. But what I'm here to tell you is, and then you kind of go into all these details that he just shared about how the best run businesses have incentivized, all these agents that are out there. There are over 20,000 agents just in our area right now that have buyers ready to buy a house. Do you want to take them off so to me, it's just turning that corner, and just if you come up against that, it's not about removing it. It never was about removing it. It's about being more transparent about it and making sure we have these conversations up front. I mean, that's my take.
Thank you.
Yeah, so my listing originally, the seller asked me about everything going on, and I mean, I will be the first to say I'm not the person to ask that question to. But basically what I told him was, and again, we can really only use this until things implement, but I just said, look, this doesn't really affect you right now. Yes, in the future, there's probably going to be conversations about sellers not paying buyer agents. There's probably parts of the country where that is already happening, but that is not our market. That's not what we're seeing. I said, and we don't know how this is all going to shake out with what's allowed to be paid by a buyer's agent or by a buyer. The question is, are all buyer's agents going to now be paying buyer agency commissions? We don't know. We don't know how FHA is going to handle that. We don't know how VA is going to handle that. And so you could be potentially backing yourself into a corner with buyers that only have the cash on, or that have cash on hand to pay their agent if the agent enforces it. And most buyers don't have that.
Being if they announce if they're allowed to do that, right?
I don't know.
They're
Yeah,
allowed
so if
them
they
to,
are,
they can
yeah.
roll their cost into the loan.
So then that's a new thing that, yeah, so I mean, what about VA?
FHA
And
and VA are
Okay.
allowing
there's a,
the buyers to roll in the agent
Okay,
costs
yeah, that's.
into their
I
loan.
didn't know that either.
and there's a great chart floating around. I'll find it that shows all the loan types
Cool.
and the maximized
Okay,
concessions.
so that's, I mean, I didn't know that either. So yeah, that was one part of the conversation, but the other part of the conversation was just, who's gonna represent the buyer then? You don't wanna put me in a position where I'm having to do both people's jobs, so you save 3%, because that's what's gonna end up happening, even if somebody comes in unrepresented. Inevitably, I'm going to have to answer questions, or it's gonna put us all in a bad situation.
We have
So,
that right now.
We have that right now. we had we have an unrepresented buyer. Daddy's a big time builder in South Lake. Thank God we already sort of knew, we already sort of knew them. But yeah, it's been a real struggle because his kid's buying a house, and of course, he's super cute in his little conversations.
He thinks he's big.
We're kind of like,
He's not.
okay, cool. I mean, we've had to keep it very black and white and be like, you go use your lender, go use your title company, ask them advice. I can't answer those questions.
But the seller was very adamant saying,
Yeah, and
I
yeah,
do not
no,
want
my
you.
seller almost did not accept the offer because he was like, I want him to have representation. I don't want to do this.
Yeah. So then what happened? You told him and he said,
Oh,
"That's all
we
good?"
sort of had to
Did he negotiate
struggle
the
a little
percentage?
bit.
Did he negotiate the percentage down?
My seller,
Yeah, no, the buyer.
Oh, well,
they
offered
lower.
lower.
He took 10,000 off
Yeah.
so that he didn't have to do it.
I want to go back and hit something that you, Angela, you asked about a minute ago. So you said that a seller has signed a listing agreement for a percentage, that whatever that percentage is, there's not a set fee at this brokerage or anywhere in the state of Texas or the United States. There was a fee set. The whole lawsuit started from that situation. Because what happened was a guy was 3 days before closing, and he saw the closing disclosure and said, wait, I agreed to pay you X, somewhere between 5 and 7 that rhymes with mix. And then said, sorry, that was out loud. But he said, I didn't agree to pay the buyer's agent, and I'm not paying the buyer's agent. And the agent, who didn't explain all of the stuff up front, did not tell him, I'm going to charge you this and I'm going to give them that.
So the seller thought that he was giving his agent the whole 6%.
Yep.
And it's crazy how many,
Well,
Huh?
He's saying, why does it matter to the seller
Because-
that the agent
but-
gave some to the buyer? Otherwise, how would the buyer get paid?
Well, but I understand.
I know a lot of sellers that would let me keep 6% if that's what the standard was.
Right.
I know a lot
Yeah,
of people that
I
are
agree.
shocked when I discount my commission
Mhm.
instead of discounting buyer agent commissions. I know, a lot of my sellers are shocked.
Yeah.
I feel, do you not think it's education though? Because if I tell my
That's
sellers,
100%.
hey, your buyer needs an agent or else they're not gonna be protected and this might become a shit show. And then they go, oh, yeah, I wouldn't have been able to pay my buyer's agent either. Please pay them.
Yes.
So
Another-
we educate our sellers that they need to be represented.
But that's the problem that started the lawsuit.
My question though too is,
I really think this is gonna, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, my question too is though, for us, I just feel like a lot is not changing because these forms have always been required in the state of Texas.
Yeah.
Yes,
So for us, I feel like there's like this fire,
for no
Yeah.
reason.
but there's not, because it's just changing the verbiage, it's making sure we're having the conversations. Now the big difference is it has to be done at time of showing,
Yeah.
like,
Well-
at the end of the day, a lot is not changing for us.
The commission is not gonna be on the MLS, that's so annoying. Like,
It's
how
annoying.
do we not,
And
why should
we
we
will
not?
I think that, well, I think we're gonna find a way.
We'll find a way to
Central
do it.
California's
Central
already
Belton
does
is already
that.
doing it.
You
can put it on your website.
Yeah, I mean, and California's already putting the seller kid contribution, and I'm like, oh, your joke is for him, tells ours to be
Well,
$12,000.
the thing about it, then you're so right in that even when any brokerage that you guys have been a part of, you were required to have a buyer rep agreement in place. Now you're required to do it before you take them out to show houses, because there's about 100,000 realtors in the Metroplex. In all of our associations together, the 9 counties,
That could be less.
there's about 100,000.
Me too.
There are less than 7,000 people that do it semi-part-time to full-time. Most of the people that have their real estate license don't do 3 deals a year. And if you only do 1 or 2, that's fine. I support you. I'm here for you. But most people don't. They are with some, a small boutique, smaller than us, boutique brokerage, that a lot of the brokers, they don't deserve to be brokers. I'll be straight up honest with you. You guys have all run into them. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't, and I don't either most of the time. I'm guessing. But the thing is, you guys have had to use the buyer rep agreement before. It's changed slightly. Now we have even more choices of how we do that. Now, there is one thing that I have to figure out, and I don't know who to, I'm probably going to have to call JC on this one, because if you guys do a showing service only, they're not paying you, they're paying me.
So has to go through the brokerage to go to.
And so I gotta figure out what that looks like, because I don't know if that means that they have to send us Zelle, Wire, ACH, Venmo, check. I don't know what that looks like at this point. And that's gonna be a little bit of a load on me and Rachel to figure that out. But I gotta go through JC, the attorneys, to figure out what that looks like.
Same for sure.
For showing services only.
Like if you
Oh,
have
On the short
the-
form, on the short form and the long form, if you select, if you get a Zillow call and they want to go see 3 houses and you go, okay, I'll go do that, and it'll cost you $250. You're not getting that money, I am. And then I've got to figure out how to get that. Once it gets to us, we can get it back to you. I don't know how long a process that is.
Collect that money from someone.
I know.
No, and then you get to the point where, like, just say, go out, you meet somebody. I mean, obviously a free consultation in the office.
A free consultation,
You
absolutely.
go out and show them 5 homes, maybe it's $50 a pop, so $250. Gets back to you, we should look at more houses, now we want to run a contract, and I guess there's gonna be a point where you're like, hey, you can keep, I can keep tallying this, or we can flip to being a percentage of closing.
And right.
And hopefully the seller will pay.
I mean, and I'll just say this before I forget my thought process. I really think once this is all said and done in 6 to 12 months, maybe, it's going to be a positive for the buyer's agent.
Yeah.
I think the buyer's agent has not gotten a lot of respect in the past. It's just kind of like, oh, somebody else will pay you and I don't have to worry about it. And I think I do. I know y'all think I'm crazy, but I think
We
it
thought that
will.
before you start talking.
But I think that ultimately it will shed light onto the buyer's agent to be of value.
Of value.
I think it's going to be
And
very
it keeps them
comfortable.
from bouncing from buyer's agent to buyer's
Yeah.
agent, not really knowing their value, because you have to tell them what our value is, give them a buyer
Yeah.
information, explain it, that way they don't.
Yeah,
I do
agree.
think it's
Savannah?
Yes, I have a question. So do you recommend, like, if we're working, we have a new buyer, we're explaining to them the buyer rep agreement. Are we basically telling them at that point, this is our fee that we charge, we are gonna do everything possible to get the sellers to pay for it? And in an event that they won't, you are essentially responsible for this.
That is correct.
But that was always the.
Yeah.
That was always the
Yeah,
conversation.
so really, it's all the same.
But yes, and the thing is, in our market, I really don't anticipate sellers saying,
No.
I'm not going to pay somebody to bring us a contract. Especially if the listing agents, which you've got to remember, the majority of listings, like close to 80% of the listings, are listed with agents that do it regularly. Where we might run into a problem, and you guys hear me out on this, is investors.
Yeah.
I think there might be some issues there with investors because they're doing 3, 4, 6 deals every couple of months. They might back off and say, I don't want to pay a buyer's agent. And then I'm going to have the conversation of, oh, so you would like to take this much of our market and slice it off that they're not interested in your property. Is that what you want to do?
I think that's the important conversations to be able to have with your sellers that are not knowledgeable, is that you're, without working with buyer's agents, you basically are removing, upwards of almost 95% or 100%
The
of
quality of
your.
the deal goes away.
Absolutely. That's a great point.
And, yeah,
Janet, did you have your hand raised again, or is that the same one from before?
Oh, I think that's the same one from before.
Okay, thank you.
But let me ask you a question, because this is one that I've had conversations with some of my friends. So what if I take on a buyer and I call a couple houses? I've got 5 houses to show today. 2 are absolutely not going to pay commission. They're not going to consider it. You say, hey, I can't show you these houses. I'm not getting compensated. You're not going to compensate me. They're not going to compensate me. I'm not showing them. I think
I don't
that's
think
going to
that's the
be weird.
way
I mean, I don't think it will be, but
I think you have to have your script in line prior to ever even taking them out to see houses.
Because
And
if
you
they
have
wanna see it, they
You
will.
have them, you have a conversation that once we start looking, there might be houses that we're going
don't
to,
compensate.
that don't compensate
Right.
the agent. So
Right.
at that point, I'm gonna have the conversation with you again, that those houses, will be required to
Right.
work it into the offer,
Right.
get with the lender, see how we can roll it in with your closing costs. but I'm gonna give you that information up front.
I
Right.
guess
You will be able to
probably
make
the
the decision.
conversations we need to have with the lenders up front, that there's a possibility to cover that
Yeah.
conversation, because I've heard if you deny a
You
showing
can't
for
deny.
someone agreement,
You
you're
have
now
to
in
do it.
violation of fair
You are.
housing.
That's
It's
right.
absolutely,
You
because if
have
you're,
to give them the opportunity to say,
Yes,
yes, or
ma'am.
no, to say, and then you say, do you still want to see
And
this? contract?
please,
I'm just trying to think of
from the
the
broker perspective,
proactive.
from the broker perspective, if you see that going to occur, if you see that, hey, this person is not going to be able to pay because they're going to see a 0% buyer commission on this listing, please send an email and copy me to your buyer. You can BCC me, CC me, I don't care. You can put me in the headline. But we would like that. We would like that.
Isn't paying the commission?
If your buyer says, I would like to see 123 Main Street and they are paying 0% commission, I want you to send an email to your buyer that says, hey, I know you want to see 123 Main Street. They are not offering any compensation. If you buy this house, my fee will be on you. Please understand that. Brian.
And once this all goes down and they pull it off the MLS, I'm seeing kind of mixed. Is the seller agent obligated to tell us prior to, like, I've heard in some storylines that a listing agent doesn't have to tell me the commission they're gonna pay until I submit an offer. Is that?
Okay, so let's talk about that in relationship to commercial
How do we
transactions.
tell our potential buyer, how do we know, once that is off the MLS, how do we know?
I think that we need to have a conversation with the buyers of, hey, this possibility does exist. But, okay, that we are going to, that you might ask to see a house that has 0% commission and that it might be on you, but we will figure out ways around that. The lender will work together, you and I will work together, we will figure out something out. That's number one. Number two, commercial transactions have always been that way. There's no set fee on a commercial transaction. When you submit your paperwork on your offer, it says this is what the buyer is asking for. The seller then gets the opportunity to say, I agree to that. That's basically what we're doing. Does that make sense? Every deal is negotiations.
But what you're saying is before you go show that property, you want to know yes or no, are they paying?
Yeah.
And they can play coy.
Yes.
You have to call or text them.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Oh,
Do they have, he's asking, do they have to tell
So they're
us?
required to tell them.
I haven't seen that.
They wouldn't.
I feel like as agents, we should like, obviously like want to help each other, and so like,
Yeah.
why would we not?
Well,
want to-
transparency.
Yeah.
Well, I
want
think
to
you're
be
gonna
open
see a
and
certain
honest.
amount, but I think you're gonna see a certain amount of listings. I won't name any names.
Please.
One in South.
Okay, hush.
I know you know her.
Hush.
That will, they will play that so that your buyer will call them. So they've been doing it anyways.
I mean, I think we've talked about this as well, like, to your point, I have a client in California. Again, it's one of those states that does whatever it wants. And so he asked the question up front, what happens? Are buyers still paying buyer agent commissions? What's going on there? And that was the conversation we had. In Texas, we're not seeing it. That doesn't mean it might not happen. So my commitment to you is that I will be transparent with the information that I have and we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yep.
Because again, everything is negotiable. I could have 3% on my buyer's agent agreement. And am I going to turn down the DR Horton bonus? Because that's what it says. Like, everything is negotiable. We can renegotiate. We can, again, like, I'm going to make my numbers work to make my sellers work because that's my job. People over profit.
And I want to hit on something you just said that's very important. Everybody that sells new construction. Okay, so
I was going to ask about it too.
everything must be in writing now. Okay, so you can put on a buyer rep, you could put, I want 3% of the transaction.
Right.
But you can't put 3% plus any bonuses. We had talked about that early on. That was a possibility. That is not there. So if you go to a builder and you buy a house and you're getting 3% and they're paying $5,000 like Highland Homes is paying over in Toledo, they're paying a $5,000 bonus, then you have to go back and I would have the conversation up front with somebody that's buying new construction. I would have the conversation of, hey, I'm so glad that you're gonna buy a new construction property. I need to let you know up front. I want to get paid to help you do this. I'm sorry that this is what I do for a living.
Yeah.
There is a possibility that we're gonna go see one of these builders and they're going to offer me a bonus. I'm not bringing you to them because of the bonus, but they're offering it to me from them. In that case, I will ask you to sign an amendment that tells
that
you
bonus.
exactly how much money I'm getting paid. I'm not trying to hide anything from you. That's the whole reason we're doing this settlement thing, is for transparency. So if I get a $5,000 bonus, I'm gonna have you sign an amendment that says you understand I'm getting 3% plus my bonus. If you don't have that conversation up front with a new build, that can be a very uncomfortable situation
And
for
you need to let
you.
them know, you're probably gonna get an incentive as well.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
getting an incentive, you're getting an incentive.
Yeah.
I think that's
And your
right.
incentive is way better than mine.
Yeah, you may get $20,000 or $30,000 from a builder. I'm gonna get a very small amount, probably $5,000. If you frame it that way, then you've got ammunition. I just don't want anybody to get into the situation of, oh God, I'm closing in 5 days and I'm getting a $5,000 bonus and now I have to tell my buyer, and the buyer freaks out. Because
And then
that
you tell
will
them-
happen.
Then you tell them that you're gonna get them a trigger.
Say again?
Then you tell them you're gonna get them a trigger.
Hey, I'm getting a bonus,
Don't get you a
but
bonus.
you're getting a big green egg.
Yeah, but you're,
And then you're gonna close it.
your closing gift's gonna get way better.
It's gonna get way better. So, but I just don't want people to get, because I can see that being an issue. So, the only thing that I want everybody to take out of this is we've got to be transparent, okay? We have to let everybody know what's going on. We're going to figure out how we get around the BAC on the MLS. I'm not saying the number because that's not a real number. Sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's more. For the commission rate, compensation rate, better term. So we don't know how we're going to get around that. My idea, I'm still toying with, is to put it on a Sixth Ave website. I'm sorry,
I thought people were gonna pay me transaction then.
cannot, because that's tied to MLS.
But
You
that's.
put it on your website.
You can't put it on Broker Van, you can't put it on Showing County.
But you can put it on your website.
You can put it on a company website. So I don't know what that means. I don't know.
That just means
You can do
we're not
Instagram. You can do all that stuff. So we may do something like where we have a running list of listings, and the buyer's agent commission. I'm gonna see if that's legal, but that is a solution that we could do for the brokerage.
Just
Every
on the
listing,
page.
there's a listing page that you could tell people, hey, here's our office listing page. Go see what the commission rate is.
Maybe we could do a little flip side of
Maybe we could do like hieroglyphics.
Yeah.
Hieroglyphics.
Morse
like
code.
that.
Joanna, hang on, Joanna had a question.
3%.
Every once in a while, you do see that they're paying the buyer's agent 4%, like, just like, please come buy this house.
Yes.
Could we put on our buyer's rep 4% and then not take, like say it is only paying 3% or 2%? You know what I mean? Like sometimes, like I was telling her, I've always put 3% on my buyer's rep, always. But I've told my buyers, like, look, man, I know you can't afford to pay me. So if they're only offering 2, I will take 2. Like just verbally, you know what I mean? And I've done that in the past. So could we just put 4%? Because sometimes that does happen, and it might happen on homes that are not selling as quickly. Or do you just amend that later?
I have not seen anything in the documentation that says that you couldn't do it.
Okay.
I'm not going
You're
to
just not
suggest.
allowed to put something that's completely open-ended and ambiguous. Yes, you could,
Or could you?
like, you can't put up to
X.
X% or, something completely outrageous. And you also can't put something along the lines of, bonus being offered. Like, it has to be a specific amount, and then, yes, you can amend it after the fact.
Sorry, I didn't know the camera went off. Y'all didn't tell me.
So,
sorry, go ahead.
no, the one thing I was gonna say about, I've done a lot of digging and reading and looking at, how you can communicate what your seller is offering. And I don't know about you guys, but I have always done offer instructions on all of my listings. And obviously now I put them in transaction desk so that those offer instructions are there. I like to make it easier for a buyer's agent. But now it's just, okay, where are those offer instructions going to go? Because now I would think that you can just put sellers, the buyer agency commission or seller concession
on your offer instructions, and then in MLS, just say
See.
for offer, you know,
Yeah.
for.
www.
And
Yeah,
there,
there's
there,
my website and.
there is talk about that, about if they do put in that seller concessions, yes or no. I've even heard a couple people say they might put a dollar figure in there. I don't think they will. I wanted to remind you guys before we get done to go to the back site under the quick reference links right here on the back site. I've put up a page that I'm continually updating as I find information called the new TAR forms right there. If you click that, it takes you here. This thing right here is the frequently asked questions that are on the Texas Association of Realtors. Patty and I had a conversation while I was on vacation about, she had a bunch of questions after she watched one of the forums webinars, and she said most of her questions were answered on the frequently asked questions. So please, it's long, I know, go read through them and try to understand the things that we're talking about. There are a couple of things on here that I want to point out. What the list is are the things that change, okay? That's what this list is. However, underneath the buyer docs, there are a couple that have links right here that are like this red one. And this is, I put how to use this. So instead of putting instructions, I put how to use this. If you click that, it will take you to another site on TAR and give you an explanation of what the blanks mean. Okay, so I highly encourage you go through another forms class just so you see it. You know how it is. The more times you see something, the easier it gets to understand it. The first time I watched that video we watched 2 weeks ago, I was like, I don't have any idea what they're talking about. And then I watched it 3 times and I started to get it. So these things right here are fantastic. As I get more information, if you guys see some of this stuff out there, text me or Slack me, please, and let me see what's there, and I'll put it up here.
I just dropped in Slack what our Central Texas MLS has already put out. And I just screenshotted it just so we have an idea of what might be coming. But basically it's just saying they're putting in like seller offering buyer concessions, yes or no, and then the flow chart of seller concession to buyer. Like just so you have a heads up of what might be coming. That's what they've implemented.
Thank you all for being here today. I really appreciate you very much for showing up for breakfast. There's a couple of bagels left. Please finish them up. I don't want to take them home. Let me know if there's anything else. Please sign up for a semi-annual catch-up if you'd like to have one. If not, I'll see you guys next week with Sean. Let me hang on. Let me turn off. Let me turn off the video.
Oh my God.
I don't know why this thing does this every time.
Where did it come from? I don't know. Oh, is it?